Everybody, thanks for coming back. Give me a second. Jesus, this
You
is
live yet?
We're live now. We're live now. I'll put myself in the bottom
Yep.
corner because that's where I belong. There's a fucked up production. Fucked up production. Sorry again. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We have got tonight with the Skeptic Skeleton. We have been joined by Clockwork Rex, and Dave is bored. Nothing else to do, so he's turned up as well. You know,
Dave's always bored.
There's
He's
nothing to
channel
do.
right.
Nothing to do, you know. So everybody, yeah, thanks very much for coming back tonight. I had a great conversation. We were delving into the idea of mythicism just before we left. So if you could, SS, if you could give your definition of an atheist, because you did say that you were an atheist. So if you could give that definition. Sorry, sending a link out for BrainBug. BrainBug's on his way. If you could give a definition of an atheist, because I know that it's a very particular niche. People know agnostic, people know atheist, pantheist, deist. What's an atheist?
Yes. So, as far as I understand it, an atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God because they don't understand theological labels or terms or things of that nature. They sound theological labels, terms, phrases sound indistinguishable from nonsensical noise. So, Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior sounds indistinct from that, and you can't tell the difference between the two. You can't tell what the meaning is. An important distinction that I notice between a atheist and a theological non-cognitivist, which is they're very, very similar, but the difference is a theological non-cognitivist would say that these things have no meaning. When someone says angel, that doesn't mean anything. When they say God, that doesn't mean anything. They would make the positive claim that these things have no meaning, whereas I simply it is my understanding that I don't know what the meaning is. I can't understand what it is. So that's my definition of atheism, is an individual who does not understand theistic labels. So
Well, could I ask you a question, right?
Because they do not know or understand.
This is something that Marty put forth whenever I was about having conversations. It's a question he asked me, and it's a question that's applicable right now. I'm just going to be rude. Are you genuine in that? If you could mute whenever you're not, if you could mute when you're not talking. Like when I say to you and I break down, right? If I was to steel man a version of a god and say a god is omnipresent, omniscient, outside of time, this, that, and the other, and
How are those meaningful though? That's the point.
in all honesty, Dave, I understand that it's bullshit, and you understand that it's bullshit. But can you understand the point that the other person's trying to put across? Like if me and you were working on something at the house, and I said to you, can you give me that fidgety diddly thing? But because me and you are friends for ages, and we've worked together for ages, and we know in this, that, and the other, you'd know what I mean by the fiddly diddly dit thing.
No, because it's not coherent. That they hand wave it away that it's coherent. How is it coherent that something can exist everywhere at the same time?
Oh,
All right,
wait,
take into
what?
consideration cognitive bias there.
I thought you were saying egg theist, and I was like, yeah, eggs are real. What? They're delicious.
But you see, this is the thing, Dave, right? It's not just one particular thing. You have to take into consideration a person that would think this will also think like this. So this person that thinks like this, I'm not going to be an asshole, but you're saying to me, well, how do they do this and how do that? I'm just going to say cognitive bias and do this and lean back.
No, but the point is, you've got to define a god. You need, and they give lots of definitions, and we argue against every single bloody one of them.
No,
But to ask whether or not, to ask what we believe, we've got to go based on what they say. Well, what they say is completely incoherent and non-consistent amongst them.
What they say
to everyone else.
No,
to everyone else. To
what
them.
no, not to everyone else. To everyone outside of their group. To everyone in our group. To our understanding and the way that we approach things. What they are saying, they completely 100% and they understand because
you misunderstand me here. right? To right to that person believes every other God definition doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's my point. To them, they think the same thing, that it is that these other things are incoherent, do not apply.
You are
There is the
expecting people who are pulling terms and words out of the air, people who have been indoctrinated, people who have cognitive bias, people who have presuppositions, all these things that you flat out refuse because you are a critical thinker. You are expecting them to just see this and understand. You're like, why do they not see it? They don't see it because of these underlying things.
I don't expect them to see it. They think they've got something coherent.
Yeah, if I could jump in for a second, I think what he's touching on is the point. It's not an expectation on them. It is just an observation that the way we see most definitions of gods is the way they see every other definition of God other than their own. And when you take that into account, given the various different positions, it can seem like everyone disputes everyone's definition of God. So the Christians dispute every other definition of God besides theirs. The Muslims do the same thing with every other God besides theirs. The Jews do the same thing with every other God besides theirs. Everybody does it. And I think that's the point that he's hitting at, is not why do they do it, but this is what they do. How we treat their definitions is how they treat other definitions they don't accept.
And I'm just going to, again,
I'm not trying to speak for Dave.
I'm just going to jump in and be an asshole and say you're basically breaking everything down to I'm just taking that one extra step. All them other gods you don't believe in and all them other things that you apply to, you're ignoring their cognitive dissonance. You're ignoring their presupposition.
I mean, well, in which sense? I mean, I'm not ignoring.
You're not. Again, okay. If you're not ignoring it, you're expecting them to not see it, which is a foundation. And hi, BRAINBUG. Hi.
Hey.
Looking well.
Hey, hi. Just want to say hi.
Hello, BRAINBUG.
Samos, go on ahead. You usually have something worthwhile. You'll only join if you've something worthwhile talking. So
yeah, normally. Okay, so this is an interesting topic, first of all. I find this one an interesting topic. I agree. I'm not an atheist on the basis that I think logical possibilities are just not much of a claim. So it kind of doesn't matter to me whether someone can give a coherent definition for God or not. The question for me is, is there going to be proof against their claim? And I think that's a much harder hurdle to overcome. I would certainly agree with what Cripple's saying here, though, in terms of the definition. It's very hard to, if you expect somebody to give you a definition of something as ethereal as a deity and be completely coherent on every level, well, that's tantamount to saying that they have a proof beyond any reasonable doubt that God does exist. And I think that's a hill too high to climb. But at the same time, I don't want to go down the route of saying, well, I have to understand exactly what you mean by any concept before I can accept it, because that would mean a lot of concepts that I think about. I can't tell you what the exact definitions are. I'm expecting you to give me some charity in order to be able to agree, and I think that's the issue. Atheists seem to me not to give any charity to the definition.
Yeah,
and I can understand why they do that, but at the same time, that's not my position.
That's what I find slightly, to apply what we said earlier, SS, to this statement that Simos just said about atheism, is that whole idea of you let someone say something and then 5-10 minutes later you break them down. So the atheist doesn't accept any views, but you've made the statement that you will be open to views. So it's...
No, again, I think you're misunderstanding the difference, what I was trying to get at before. I definitely said ASS and not critical cripple, didn't I?
Well, yeah. Dave's got an opinion now. Come on.
Yes.
It's just like what?
Yes.
Right. The point is, we argue with people about their gods. That's not what we believe.
No.
We can only ever talk on their terms. because
Well,
we
there's
don't-
this emphasis on worldview, though, and you have to understand that too, especially when you're talking about precept arguments. That you do have to grant a premise. The problem is that certain precept arguments, they'll take granting the premise as conceding. So it gets a bit pointless.
Yeah, if I could just jump in really quickly. I notice the conversation sort of hovering around, how do I say, coherence. For me, I have to understand what the topic is in order to verify it. And it doesn't have to be to a pedantic degree, because I understand what a chair is. So you don't need to like overly explain in needless detail what a chair is. But if I've never seen a chair, I would need some definition, some description, something, so I could know if a chair is in the room. If I don't know what a chair is, or I don't know what a room is, then the entire question of is a chair in the room doesn't make sense to me. So
Yes.
when I refer to it, I am only speaking on my ability to understand something. I'm not making a claim about anybody else or the value of their words. I'm just saying I do not understand. I am ignorant, thus the atheism.
Right.
I have a
No,
friend
if
who
I
will
spent
Google,
right, if I can just say, Brian, sorry, I'm going to be an asshole here. Sorry, it's not like it's my channel, but you say to me you don't understand. Yep. And I feel on any topic that anybody is educated on or anybody has any sort of idea on, if me and you sat down and spent fucking a week, 2 weeks, 6, 7 months, and I explained my point to you, and you still can't understand, then it comes down to, you know, a refusal to understand, a refusal of acceptance, a refusal of moving the conversation forward to accept my point of view. You know, like I've spent 7 months with an ancient alien sort of guy. We went down, I got up to here, man. It's
Again, I think you're misunderstanding us being able to accept what someone else says that they think a god is, to be able to discuss it with them, and us thinking it's meaningful or coherent.
I think it's bullshit. But I still wouldn't consider myself an atheist.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's fine. I can respect that, but I can only work and operate off of my own understanding, and that is my best attempt at being intellectually honest with myself, is do I actually understand what the person is saying? Because there is also an issue that you can run into where you can assume you understand what the person's saying, and your understanding is very different of what theirs is. So you assume that since they said they're Catholic, they are literally eating Jesus's blood and flesh, and that is not at all what's happening.
I assume nothing.
That's why
I
the
ask
definition.
questions.
That's why the understanding needs to be clarified between the two individuals. That no, this is purely symbolic. So it is for that reason that there are some things I can assume I understand what people mean by what they say based on the context, but that assumption can still very much be wrong.
See, this
So
falls
I
back
enter the
again to what we were
conversation
saying earlier, man.
with as few assumptions as I can.
Exactly, right? No assumptions. This is where we fall back to earlier, where we were talking about labels, and with no labels, and let's not put people in pigeonholes. There, you know, let's not put them in labels. And the fact that it's, you know, what they say, and what they put for, you're putting them in a box because of what they say, and they're a refusal to accept their point of view because of what they say puts them in this box, puts them in this label.
Well, that's certainly not my intention to put anyone in any label. It is merely just me talking about myself. If I don't understand a language that someone's speaking, I just don't understand the language that they're speaking. And them continuing to speak in that language to me won't increase my understanding. They gotta kind of meet me somewhere and then walk me to their language. And that's how I view this circumstance. So I apologize if that does come across as
No.
ingenuine
We're just
or
being.
a
I'm just
refusal.
being me, being pedantic, and being an asshole. This is the whole point of. I keep tapping my mic. Dave's going to shout at me if I do it again.
Right, wait a minute. How
Yeah, I
can
know.
you say, I've not heard from Christians or Muslims or the main gods we argue against, any one of them that does not define a god as outside time? How is that a coherent concept? How can you find that coherent?
How can I
Given
find that
that they
coherent?
say-
I don't need to find it coherent. I need to understand that that person finds it coherent.
No, to discuss it, yes, but we're talking about if you are an atheist, it's whether or not you believe it's coherent. You don't need to believe it's coherent to discuss it with someone else. That's what I'm saying.
I have
Yeah.
worked with some fucking culty bastards that call certain tools this, that, and the other, and all the rest of it. I work with a guy where I fucking speak Polish on certain tools because it's easier for him to understand. He can't get the English word. It's a moving forward of the conversation. There's no point in me screaming at my coworker, go and get the go and get the micrometer, go and get the micrometer, go and get the micrometer. He hasn't a fucking clue. And I've explained to him and got this, but it's not. He calls it a vormir. So I now go, get me the vormir. He gets it instantly. The conversation moves forward. We then work forward.
Yeah, again, I would as well. I would not say to a Christian I'm discussing, I am an atheist, because it's meaningless to them, and we're discussing the God that they believe in. Right? The fact that I don't think their definition is coherent, I would not tell them. Right? Because it offers nothing to the conversation. I would discuss what they are talking about. That's what I'm saying. Being an atheist is about what you believe. The conversation would be, this is timeless. You think this can exist outside time. I would sit down and I would explain why I don't think that's possible. I wouldn't say it's
Right.
coherent. I wouldn't.
Okay, exists outside time. You don't think it exists outside time. I'm going to be a Christian for a minute. And I'm going to be a Christian from a scientific background, and you know my background, right? Happy enough?
Okay, go on.
Okay. Exists outside time. From your definition, time is relative to this universe, Dave, yes?
No, that's not my issue.
No. I'm asking you either yes or no. So we have the
I
time.
don't know.
No, we talk about time. Linear time.
don't-
Hold on,
I
Dave,
don't know.
Dave, let me try. What do you mean time?
Linear time
Exactly.
in relative to what is this universe when they say when the Big Bang existed, looking from an internal critique from a Christian, from a scientific point of view, yeah, back and forth, trying to be a Christian.
Okay,
Linear
yeah, I
time,
get that. I'm going along with you.
yeah,
here, okay?
an atheist says linear time did not exist before the Big Bang. Is that correct?
No, the Big Bang is the furthest back that we can look with our models. It's the furthest back that we can build models that function in our mathematics.
What existed before the Big Bang?
We
I
don't know.
Why?
We don't even know if that's coherent.
Exactly, because time may not have existed before the Big Bang.
It may not have, but it may have. There may
Yes,
have been a
may
different
not have, may not
concept.
have, may, yeah. So I'm going to bring into the cosmos.
Okay.
I'm going to use cosmos instead of universe. Yeah?
Okay. Yes. What do we know about the cosmos?
Well, what the theories is out at the minute about the cosmos is there's possible different ways to explain the Big Bang. The one that personally my favorite is membranes. Smacking together, fourth dimension,
You as,
sixth dimension.
you as a Christian, or you as
Me
as an
personally, because I have a scientific, I am still a Christian. Still a Christian.
Okay.
Are the membranes God?
Hmm?
Are the membranes God?
No, the point I'm trying to prove is that time doesn't exist before the Big Bang, but there is something before the Big Bang,
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
right?
So
The fact
the
that there
point
is something
I-
before the Big Bang gives the possibility, not the definition, not the definitive thing, but
You're
the
about-
possibility.
You're about to walk into a gotcha,
Oh no, I'm just going to keep going back to there's turtles forever, man.
right? Because if there's something before there, and you're about to say there's a time there, then the God can't be there.
I didn't
you
say
know,
time, I
time-
said time
well,
didn't
no,
exist.
Wait. How does I'm just trying to understand the language that you're
The
using. How
point
does-
I'm trying
how
to
does-
point out, no, as a Christian, the point I'm trying to point out is the fact that we, as scientific people, believing in all of this and everything, yous are all crazy because evolution doesn't exist. When we go back, we have the Big Bang. We don't know what happens. Possibilities and hypothesis before it is membranes and cosmos and things like that. Okay, we are opening up the possibilities of a cosmos. We are opening up the possibilities of membranes colliding that caused the Big Bang. We are opening up the possibilities now quite recently of the reoccurrence of the Big Crush again is coming back up again. All these possibilities are possible. Yes?
But what is
Are they?
probable?
Are they possible?
Probable.
Are you going down the physics route?
I guess my question with asking that is, a lot of people tend to say that anything is possible, but just like everything else, possibility would have to be demonstrated. And to touch on a little bit of what you said, this is how conversations tend to go with me, is I don't know what a membrane is. So I don't know what a cosmos is. So this wouldn't be very productive. I would ask you to define those first, and then we could get to that point. But if I don't know what those things mean, we can't have a productive
Cosmos
conversation.
is an area outside of our universe. A membrane is what is a hypothesis of what is certain fourth, fifth, sixth dimensional things that is outside of our universe that have collided, and they have caused the Big Bang. The point I'm trying to put forth is the acceptance of these higher dimensions, the acceptance of these fifth and sixth and seventh, and if we go into string theory, 11th dimensions. Okay? If you are happy to accept that as a scientist, then why can God not exist in one of these dimensions?
Right. Okay. Completely go back to the time issue, because that was the definition. You're just picking a random thing there, right? The time issue is what is important.
He's outside
because
time.
that's whether or not
Cosmos
that
is
theory.
outside time. Membranes are outside time. Time
No,
being
they're
a
not.
definition
They are not
that
outside
what
time.
start. I'm going to define time as something that time started with the Big Bang.
Then there is something else. There is another form of time outside of our time. You can't have, right? The reason that they're God.
Physicists have theorized. Physicists make the statement. Now again, I'm a Christian, being a dickhead. Physicists have made the definition that time did not exist before the Big Bang. Physicists have also made the definition.
Excuse me, sweetie. Time is not a thing.
Time is the
not
fourth
a thing.
dimension.
No, space-time exists. That's what was created at the Big Bang.
I actually downloaded recently a book about time without
Very
time.
nice, right.
Time
That
works
doesn't-
backwards.
If we to have cause and effect, to have a before and an after, you require some sort of time. For a god to make a decision, to create a universe, to do things in days, requires a progression of time.
Linear.
Let me steel man that.
Linear time. Make it.
Let me try to steel man that. So you're saying that that you can't have order of events outside of time.
Who are you steel manning, me or Dave?
Dave.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that what I'm understanding, Dave?
Yes.
Okay.
You can't have
Linear
Are you
time.
Are you with us so far, Simus and Skeleton? And
You just go ahead, because I would argue the point completely different.
I know you got a lot to say about this, Simus. I was in Jay's stream earlier, so I know you.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Brian.
I
You
am.
go ahead. That's so bad.
I'm doing my best, but as I have said, I have no formal education in this, so I had no understanding of what a cosmos is and higher dimensions and what before time means, or what time means in this context, because even when presented with the definition, I ended up with way more questions than a better understanding. But that's
Well,
all
that's
on
fair.
me, to be clear. That's not something that I'm saying is wrong with anyone else's manner of speech. That's just my inability to understand things and how I process stuff. So
Thank you
that's
very
just
much
where I
for
am so
joining.
far.
And if anything, SS, more practice, you'll get better.
We're all learning at some level. We're all good at some stuff and struggle at other concepts. You wouldn't come to me to learn about the Bible. I wouldn't be able to tell you anything about what it says. But
Brian's a year in the community. Simos is 1,000,000 years in the community. Dave's 52. You've been 2, hidden for some. We're all at different levels.
Well, I mean, what I know and have learned from childhood on is I know astronomy and I know physics, but nobody really understands physics. Not really. We understand how atoms work, but we don't understand why they work like that. Well, I mean, I know the positive and negative charges and all that good stuff, but once you get below the quark level, things get really weird.
Yeah, no, so what made me giggle is the fact that we all know that radioactive elements radioactive decay, but we can never pick the element that's going to radioactive decay. To us it's random, but there obviously has to be a pattern there.
Yeah, and we just haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
And when you think about the Cosmos SS and you think about membranes, kind of think about the Marvel multiverse kind of thing. That sort of fits it, but not really. But I mean, it's easier to understand if you think about it like that, without doing all the research and shit.
It's a special spelling of membrane. I've put the special spelling in the private chat, so if you look that up.
Oh, special spelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this. Private chat is just all of the chats are overlapping with each other, so I can't really read them because they're all just overlapping for some strange reason. I can only see the absolute most recent one.
It's not doing it on mine. Okay, if you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to go back to this atheism because I do find it fascinating.
Okay.
And I want to agree firstly with something Dave said, which is this is my position and not a position which I expect other people to converse with me on necessarily. And I respect that. I really do respect that. I've come across atheists in the community before, and some of them are more aggressive, and that's the kind that I disagree with. And some are saying, well, I just don't understand it. And that's fair enough. I mean, that really is. My issue is where an atheist would say, there is no definition of God, right, that can be coherent, right?
Yeah.
Because that seems to me like a positive claim, and for which I would need a good justification in order to accept that. And that's something I've never had from an atheist, simply because our area of ignorance is far higher than our area of understanding.
I would agree with that completely.
Me too.
So to me, although I'm a hard atheist and I think gods do not exist, and I'll give you reasons as to why gods don't exist, I will say that when it comes to non-defined gods, right, or badly defined, loosely defined, I don't know which word you want to use there, but gods which are ill-defined, let's put it that way. Obviously I can't talk about whether they exist or not. The concept itself, right, may not, I think may be bullshit, all right, but I can't necessarily show a logical inconsistency in something which is so badly defined. And for me, that's the reason why I call myself a hard atheist and not an atheist. Because I think in order to be an atheist proper, you need to say that all definitions of God are incoherent. And that, I don't think that's a level to which can easily be achieved.
Again, you would need to know far more than every possibility for a definition, which I don't think you can ever get.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's
so I think it might be possible to give a logically coherent, a logically possible definition. Although I would agree, most local God definitions certainly don't fit that. But I can't see anything logically impossible about a deist God that destroys itself in the creation of the universe. I can't see how that has any contradictions in it. Although it's bullshit.
Existing. I mean, I come up with the closest thing I could get to a meaningful God is basically that is the bored teenager that accidentally creates a universe in his bedroom.
Yeah.
The Lisa in The Simpsons when she creates her universe.
I like the
Black.
concept. It's like the Michael Haziel network being considered a god because it's the closest thing on this planet to that.
But the problem I've got with that is, would you call that a god?
Well, I mean,
that's where I get stuck.
Right, well, can I ask a question? Can I ask the atheist to give me a definition that he would be happy with a god?
That seems a bit counter.
Shut your mouth, Dave. Shut your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
So
point.
if I because this is something I've heard a different version of, and this is mostly from Christians. What would it take for you to believe in God's existence? What would you need to see to convince you that a God exists? And I have to be honest, as of right now, I don't know. I don't know what definition of God would be coherent. The closest I can give is an example of how you define other things in reality and how you demonstrate that, and if you can do that for God. So you explain what a TV is, what it's made of, how it functions, what's necessary for it to function, what the thing is, where it's located in time and space, things like that. And if you can do that for God, then I could understand what a God is, and then I could see if it was there or not. But if I used this example in one of my videos recently, in my collaboration with Eseth, if I don't know what a Davenport is, I can't check if it's in the room or not. If I don't know what a Chesterfield is, I can't examine their existence because I don't know what they are. And I honestly, if I had a definition of God that I understood, I would not be an atheist. But because I personally do not, that is why I am. And I definitely, I've seen atheists go that far as to say that these terms just absolutely have no meaning, or that all definitions are nonsense, and I would absolutely not go that far. I haven't been presented with all definitions, so I may someday be presented with a definition that I could understand. I'm very much open to it. So I'm very much similar to Dave in that I am only referring to myself and my ability to understand things. I'm not making a claim about the objective definitions itself and whether it can or cannot exist.
Well,
Okay,
I will
so
agree with
Cody-
everything that you said except for the bit where you agreed with Dave. The reason that I asked that question was to get some sort of was to get that sort of response. I was waiting for what I was expecting when I asked that question was something similar to the Matt Delahunty response. It's like, I don't know, but God does.
Yeah, so I just want you to row back on the incoherent claim. That's all I'm asking you to do. And I don't think there's any contradiction with what you just said, SS, with that, right? You're not saying all definitions of God are incoherent, are you?
Yeah, and that's why I prefer not to use that term. I prefer not to say they're incoherent, just to say I don't understand what it means, because I don't believe that I can for a lot of definitions. I believe other people can, or I've seen other people can, but I'm still like trying to work out how to do it myself. I can't demonstrate the incoherency, so I would not call it incoherence. I would just say I don't personally understand. And just because I don't understand something doesn't mean that it's incoherent. It just means that I don't understand it. So I avoid the term incoherent, and I would not say these terms, phrases, or anything are incoherent. I would just say I don't understand. But I do agree that, unfortunately, some atheists, most of which I disagree with, would go that far and say they are incoherent, which would be a thing you would have to demonstrate in and of itself.
Well, okay, I've got something for you. The Hindus believe that the whole cosmos was born from an egg. Well, which came first, the cosmic chicken or the cosmic egg? See, that's incoherent. Nobody get it. Okay, fair enough. I'll shut up.
I was muted. I was giggling.
Cosmic chicken, what the fuck is that?
The egg
Is that
always
something-
came first.
A cosmic chicken had to lay the cosmic egg.
No, the egg came first. The
So
egg.
are you saying God? Are you saying God is like Colonel Sanders?
Aren't there other egg-laying creatures besides chickens? So how do we know it was a cosmic
No.
chicken specifically?
The cosmic
Look at
platypus.
the composition of the shell, and probably decide whether it was a bird or some kind of archosaur compared to like a lepidosaur, a snake or lizard or something like that. And obviously, if it's a fish, it's going to have soft eggs or amphibian. We'll
I'm
start
sure
there.
they imagined it to be chicken egg shaped. Quite hard.
Oh. The cosmic octopus. Hail Cthulhu.
Okay, so now I'd like to ask Dave about incoherence and what do you feel about that? And what's your kind of explanation? Would you grant that without knowledge of all definitions, you couldn't call the definitions incoherent, or do you think there's?
Well, it's okay. What I would say is I have not had my issue there. When I say incoherence, I mean I have not had a coherent definition.
Yeah. Okay.
There is no. They contradict each other, so I cannot in any way, shape, or form, in any sane way, distinguish between two definitions they give me to determine that could be a god.
Right, but by could, would you accept that could includes a logical possibility?
Yes.
Okay, I think we may have a difference, Nolan. That's okay. That's okay.
Oh no, keep going, keep going. I'm gonna move you two to the main screen. Go on ahead.
Oh my goodness.
We need that. I mean,
I mean, I personally, again, if I were to say to you that this definition of God is unfalsifiable, right? Would that change? Would you just call that incoherent because God should be falsifiable? Is that your position?
No, I've got no problem with God being unfalsifiable.
Right. Okay. In which case,
I like it. I don't intellectually like it, but
yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, we are on the same page,
Yes.
really close, right? I'm a hard atheist, and I think there are no good arguments for God. In fact, there are good arguments against even the deistic God. However, that doesn't mean to say that I think they're incoherent, because that's my point. I don't think logical possibility is a good reason to believe anything is actual in reality.
I can agree with that.
I think I haven't even seen any logical possibility of one.
Well, no, you can just,
Other than a
by
certain.
saying logically possible, all I'm saying is that no contradiction necessarily entails.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for instance, that God I was talking about, right? A God created the universe by destroying itself.
Yes.
I don't think that has any contradictions, necessary contradictions in it.
No.
Right?
Okay, I agree with you there.
Because I'm not defining God, number one, and I'm saying that there's no way it's falsifiable within this universe, at least anyway. Right? So those two things together mean it's logically possible. But I don't think that's any good explanation of what God
But does
is.
that tell you anything? I was going to say, does that tell you anything about defining a god? Unless is the definition of a god in that point that which destroys itself to create, which would be.
Well, I mean, by definition, all I'm saying is it has properties, right?
Yeah.
And just at least one property. I'm not even saying multiple properties. I'm just saying there's at least one property, and that doesn't conflict with what we know to be reality.
No, I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I would also like to add, for logical possibility, it's important to understand, in order to say that things are contradictory, or to say that they are, I can't remember the word we were using, it'll come to me, but it was the word we were using. Instead of saying I don't understand, it was some other word. Incoherent, yes. In order to do that, you have to understand the incoherency. You have to understand what this thing is and understand that logically it is incoherent with this other thing. But if you don't understand what either of those things are, you can't say it's incoherent because you don't even know what language they're speaking. So that's basically just my 2 cents that I want to add, is that when we're discussing coherency or logical possibility, we still need to understand what it is that we're applying the logic to in order to say, hey, that's incoherent or not incoherent. Because if I don't know what a god is, and you presented me with the example of a god that created the universe by destroying itself, I can't say that's incoherent because I don't know what a god is. I don't even know how a universe functions, or how it is created, or if its creation requires a god or not. There are too many unknowns for me to say this is logically contradictory. That's what I'm saying.
The problem I keep having with that,
claim.
the problem I keep having with that is I know that you will continue the conversation, and I know that you will accept their definition of their God.
What do you mean by accept?
Well, if I said to you,
Can we go entertain?
you're being a
Yeah,
pedantic
run with-
bastard,
you will
Steve.
run with
Sorry,
that
Steve.
definition.
Yeah, I do get the accusation of being a pedantic bastard.
Oh man, no, don't get me wrong. I made a
we
Twitter
all
post earlier. I made there was somebody who I have no problems with earlier, and when I made a Twitter post, it came across as I was being a complete dick, and it was purely because he used the word should instead of preferable. Yeah, I can be pedantic too.
I'd just like to point out that I'm not. I don't like. Well, I object to the word pedantic.
Of course you do.
Simos lost his
There you
internet.
go.
Hey guys, I gotta step out, but it was good to meet you, Skeleton, and I'll see the rest of you guys later.
Nice to
All
meet
right.
You as well.
Oh, take care,
Brian,
BRAINBUG.
thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Anyway,
bringing
then,
everyone
Brian, before you
together.
go, do you want to share anything you're
Yes,
on?
yes, thank
Oh
you.
yeah, I'm on the here in an hour. I'm on over on YFNA. I'm going to be on the Ask an Atheist thing. So you want to go over there and ask me a question? You can come pop on over.
Any question at all, Brian?
Ask you about atheism.
No, I think that just to say, if Dave gets the green light to ask any question he wants, he might stay up.
Yeah.
They've
Hey, good
already
luck.
asked every question he wants to.
I've got lots of underwear questions.
Okay, bring it. Bring it. I'll
Mesh.
answer those.
Mesh, purple.
Sometimes. Bye,
Good
guys.
luck.
Sometimes.
Good luck,
Yeah,
Brian.
good luck.
We've got a spot. Is Mouty still in the chat, or did the wife come home and whip him in the line?
I don't see him recently.
He was there earlier. We've got Red Fang's about. Red Fang, the link's in there somewhere. Like, it will not be going much longer, another 15 minutes or so. And,
It's already so
yeah,
late,
for
my
some-
brain's melted. So
Your
Yeah, for
brain's
some
what?
reason, I can't see the chat at all, so I'm kind of just blind. I don't know what's up with maybe my end.
Oh,
I
no,
can't see
no,
the chat
no.
at
You're
all. I
in
can see the private
StreamYard.
chat.
Yeah, it's the way I work StreamYards with OBS. If you want the
Oh,
live
okay.
chat, you need to go onto your mobile phone.
Okay.
It's an extra step for you, but it makes it beautiful for the audience.
Well, the thing about God is when you get to a point when a theist asks you, well, disprove the existence of God, I ask them, which God?
it's easy to disprove the existence of lots of gods.
How the fuck do you...
No, well, you can. You can disprove the existence of lots of gods, but disproving the existence of a god they don't believe in is irrelevant. Which is why
Exactly.
I find it really bad when they ask you, when they get pissy when you ask them to define their god.
Well, but it's the God of the Bible. Well, which one?
one?
You see,
Yeah.
why would you say that?
Because the people. Every
No,
Christian
seriously. You're
has a
having a
different
conversation. No.
definition.
You're having a conversation with somebody on a topic, right?
Yeah.
A topic.
Okay.
It's not their
Yeah.
God. You know they're a Christian, right?
And
Shut up a minute. Let me rant. Okay? If anyone in this room is going to tell me I'm wrong, it'll be Simos. Give me a minute. You've probably heard all of these before. Give me a minute. You're having a conversation with a guy on a topic. He's a Christian. You know he's a Christian. From building that conversation with him over a day, over an hour, over whatever it is, you know what sort of Christian that guy is. You're asking him to define his Christian, his God,
yes,
specifically so that you
Yes.
can have a sentence to get a gotcha moment out of him.
no, specifically so we can try and work out what we are talking about, right?
Yes.
I have spoken, right? I won't say that no.
You're
Christian-
smarter than that, Dave. 15 minutes talking to a Christian you've fucking worked out.
No,
Alright, no.
I've got a vague clue.
You have a vague clue. You're being fucking modest. And I know you did. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're just
they
being...
all share different definitions. What they think the Christian God is virtually different for every. It is almost
30
unique
fucking
for every
thousand
Christian.
plus denominations. Do you want to find out what every single fucking one of them is?
No, because it doesn't matter. Because even the people within the denominations, the individual person thinks that God is something different.
Dave, do your link in the private chat, will you?
I actually would, for all the individual denominations, so that I don't confuse my definitions when I'm talking to them. So when I'm talking to a Baptist, I know not to assume anything non-Baptist or Catholic or anything about them. So that's, I would say yes, I would want a specific definition for each of them, for each person I'm talking to, so that I know what they mean when they say God, not what I think they mean when they say God.
Anybody who knows me when I'm talking about serious topics, I get fucking really assholish. Amanda will tell you, my mother will tell you, because it's, you know, when I get into text messages and when you're writing stuff down and you're being pedantic, I am very specific. But when you're having a conversation with someone, it's completely different. There's nuances. There's the way they talk. There's, if you get to see them, their body language. I'm sorry, I'm just going to pick on Dave, but Dave's smarter than that. I know Dave 30 minutes into a conversation as a guy picked out. And I know sometimes when Dave says something to somebody, and I do it too, don't get me fucking wrong. I'm not going to just pick a Dave, I'll pick on myself. You say things to put people in holes so they can fall down a hole, so they can say this thing.
I think you're trying to identify. The problem is there are dozens of arguments. There are hundreds of arguments against different versions of different gods. You've got to know, asking that, yeah, I know what you're saying, that it seems like a trap, but if you don't know what you're talking to them about, you don't know what argument to use.
Yes.
When it comes to this conversation and this topic, I am very in tuned from years of conversations, but I know I can be socially inept and I miss talking between the lines sometimes. So out of the context of this topic, I do have that inability.
Well, sometimes I just think this, and sometimes I'll say it out loud. Some people just dig a hole, fall in it, and keep on digging.
That is true as well.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult because words, words have different meanings. And so when somebody uses a particular word, you don't necessarily know which meaning they're using, and that can be quite confusing as well. I've fallen foul of that trap quite a few times. But again, I mean, these things are about conversations, at least anyway, about exchanging ideas, and I think, if you start off with saying that you know what somebody is what somebody's position is before they've actually articulated it, then I think you're going to make mistakes.
Agreed.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I was gonna say, guys, I agree, because even if you can box someone into like being a Baptist versus a Lutheran, or versus a Mormon, every single individual, even within that denomination, still accepts beliefs that are going to be different than that box. There's going to be Mormons that don't accept Noah. There's going to be, people in every religion are going to pick and choose parts of the Bible that they say this is actually a metaphor, or I'm shoving this into my spirituality part of my brain, or this is actually real. And since you have all those three things going on, that's going to happen to every denomination. And so you can't therefore then go, well, this guy is a Mormon, so I know exactly how I need to respond to this person, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I agree.
But I would agree with what MathPig was saying earlier, is that, that doesn't stop us asking questions about it and going, right, okay, well, he's a Mormon, so I'm going to ask him about a particular type of miracle or whatever, Joseph Smith or Howie, whatever. And so that is really looking for someone to fall in a hole, which is they're going to fall into because they're that particular type of religious person.
Thank you.
Same with like Skylar and slavery in the Old Testament.
Oh, burritos.
Right.
We have to call it burritos because we have literally mentioned it that much that the algorithm is closing our videos down. We have to create a secret word for fucking murdering babies. He said it that much.
Burritos. Okay. Okay, I won't refer to that then.
But no, but that's what it. He mentioned murdering babies. I know what was it? First Samuel. I think it's the. If anyone can remember the first verse in First Samuel, he. I love Skylar. Skylar's one of the first people that helped me out. Him and Dr. Josh, and huge amount of love for Skylar. This is just what happened. It was the fact that he mentioned First Samuel and murdering babies that much that he had to refer to it. I think it was burritos.
Love it. I love that. Oh, that's a great little story. I didn't know it, but I can imagine that's true because he does like his topic of morality in the Bible, and that's cool. But the point being is, going in ahead of time, speaking to him exactly what Skull is going to talk to you about, and that's why I think Christians that go on there and don't understand that are kind of lacking somewhat. And likewise, I'm quite open that I'm a hard atheist, and if you come at me, then I'm gonna push you on trying to define what you mean by God, right? And if you can't give me some kind of definition, and you can't, of course, because every time you do, you're going to end up with some kind of personal God. If you're
It's always
Christian.
personal testimony, man, regardless of whether you're an atheist or a fucking Christian. It always is personal testimony that convinces me.
Well, I don't know. I think if you can show logical incoherence, then you're
It
on the way.
depends. Well,
I think the two biggest ones that I've encountered is personal testimony or belief that Jesus actually resurrected. And obviously the belief that Jesus resurrected is probably the weakest of those arguments. But even still, if you show someone who has a personal experience that you could be Buddhist or you could be, you could be of any religion and have a personal experience which you attribute to whatever God you believe in, that doesn't seem to hit a lot of people. Like even if you tell that to a Christian, like, you know what, I know a Hindu person that their personal experience is attributed to Shiva, and so how do I know that your personal experience is attributed to Jesus or God? That doesn't hit with them for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'm not
I would
sure
agree. Just because they don't know what unity is. But that's another point.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just say this. I'm going to finish up with these because some other people have come in and say something, but I would just finish on this. If a Christian comes to me and says, look, I believe this, right? Not because of personal testimony, etc., or whatever, but because of faith, right? I just trust that my intuition says to me, this is what I should believe. I've got no logical or what's the word I'm looking for? Philosophical justification. I've got no deductive, proof that God exists. My induction is purely, self-referential, and so therefore, I take it on faith that Jesus resurrected, etc., etc. I will leave them the fuck alone.
Oh,
all right.
Completely agree. Right, I got so pissed off at Frank Turek.
Let me just it's because I'm not interested. I'm not interested in trying to shatter their beliefs if they feel it's psychologically beneficial for them. Okay.
Hold on, let Amos finish. Let Amos finish because he said he was going to finish up on this.
Sorry.
Let me just finish up on that because I'll go. Then I want to make room for some other people. But
we're finishing up now, man. So finish. Do your closing statement.
Okay. Well, just to finish up, that's the point, because I've got no interest in trying to convince somebody that has a psychological need that they shouldn't be a Christian or they shouldn't believe in God, whatever the stripes. Because some people really genuinely feel and get great benefit psychologically from the belief, and there's no reason to change those people's minds. However, obviously, I feel that they are open to a cognitive dissonance in a way which is unhealthy. That's my personal belief. And if I feel they're suffering, right, then I may take some further steps, right? But if they just say faith, it's my faith, bud. You've got your faith, I've got my faith. Okay, that's fine. I've got no answer against faith. How can you? Because it comes down to someone's preference, and that's fine. Right. So that's my kind of line there. If someone wants to argue with me, I'm happy to argue with them. If they don't want to argue with me, I'm happy not to argue as well. So,
no, I think I agreed with most of that, especially the last part of it. But I think the first part where you were discussing about apologists bringing up arguments to you, I would argue that most Christians and most believers of God are not apologists. They don't know anything about philosophy. They don't know the philosophical arguments. They don't know anything about that. So when you structure it that way, to me it tells me, well, that's because you're talking to people on YouTube that are so desperate to prove that their God is real that they've researched apologetics and they've researched philosophy. That's not most of the world. That's not most of Christians. That's probably not 90% of Christians.
A lot of them are repeating an awful lot of
Art.
bullshit.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because I'm a former Christian. I was a Christian for 40 years, and I know didn't know anything about apologetics. I didn't know anything about atheism. I didn't know anything about that stuff. I just separated parts of the Bible, which I didn't really accept as it was a conflict with evolution for me. So I just separated it into this part of my brain that I just call spirituality,
Cognitive dissonance.
I don't really want to deal with this Noah story. So I'm never going to think if it actually makes sense that animals of all over the world can fit on an ark. I never even questioned it. It's literally a part in your brain that you just go, you know what? This is part of the Bible. This is part of God. This is part of the Spirit. And you don't even have to research apologetic arguments at all, or philosophy at all. So that's kind of my point.
Most Christian content on YouTube, most Christian content on YouTube, most Christian content anywhere is a reinforcement. It's not a proof, it's a reinforcement.
Right.
Yeah. I
Right.
would argue.
Absolutely.
I'd like to jump in.
I'm
just
going to
to
shoot
give-
off anyway. I'm going to shoot off in case you do want to let someone in for the last bit. But thank you very much, everybody. Great to meet
Same
you.
as, thank you for
Nice
calling.
Thank you,
Meet you.
Dave.
Nice to meet you.
I hope to see you around. Nice to
too.
meet you guys all. See you, the man. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay, bye. I'd like to jump in for a second. It's a shame because I was actually going to address something similar to what he was saying. I think a lot of this can depend on what your goal is in a conversation. So if your goal is to convert somebody, or if your goal is to learn, you have to take different approaches. So if your goal is to try to learn and understand what they're saying, it's going to require a lot of listening and not a lot of questions. You're going to have to speak a lot, and you're going to have to get real comfortable with that. But if your goal is to demonstrate something to them, then you would obviously take a different approach. So when it comes to the matter of faith thing, I still want to understand that process. So if someone were to say, I just believe it on faith, then I would ask, how do you determine the criteria for faith? Because effectively, to me, that just pushes the problem back a step. So it's like, how do you know these things are true? I take it on faith. Okay, how do you know what to take on faith? And we have the same conversation, just pushed back a step. And the idea is not about convincing. I want to be able to put myself in their shoes and follow their line of reasoning and get to the conclusion that they got to. That's basically what it is. I use the analogy in my videos sometimes of math. It's just like math. You show your work, and when someone else has math and they get a different result, even though you both did the same equation, you want to follow their process. If you did 2 + 2 and you got 4, and they did 2 + 2 and they got 7, and you're like, okay, let's start from here. Now walk me through the process of how you got to where you got to. And
Okay.
even if they got to the point where they just said, oh, I just picked 7, it's like, okay, but why 7 out of all the other numbers you could have picked? Even if it was just random, why that particular random number? And that's just my personal curiosity. But at the same time, that's just how I converse with people. But if someone said that was like their limit as far as personal boundaries and respect and things like that go, I would never push someone who doesn't want to be pushed. If they very much say, I'm just not into it, I just believe on faith, that's just my thing, I will very much leave them alone and won't push them on it. It's only when they say I should believe on faith that we get into the pushing contest. But if other people are perfectly fine to just say, this is just what I believe, I'm not going to push it on you, you live your life however, I will respect that and respect them and leave them alone. So
I agree. I mean, I agree with that. I think that's a lot of street epistemology that's going on, and I have very few videos. I think I only have 3 videos I've ever created on YouTube on my channel, and they're all old. But I know definitely in one of them, I was talking about things that I saw on YouTube that helped me when I still wasn't sure if a God existed or not. And I did come to the conclusion that if I had met street epistemologists early on, those would have been the most challenging questions for me, for sure. Just to question if faith, is valid for getting to truth. I think that's probably one of the most powerful ways of talking to someone without being like a Matt Dillhunty and just screaming at people. I think there's street epistemologists are probably the best people to actually convert people from their religious beliefs, in my opinion. So good on you.
I don't think we could end on a better note than converse, think, ask questions, think for yourself,
and be honest.
Be fucking honest.
I would have one more thing, because I try to conclude everything I say with this.
I was going to ask you, do you have a tagline for your channel? Because think for yourself is my tagline. So do you have a tagline? Do you have something you'd like to end with?
The closest thing to a tagline I've got so far is don't believe me. Don't believe the things that we've said. Don't come to the atheist hangout and agree with everyone and pat yourself on the back and say, well, these people affirmed what I already thought was true, so now I'm just going to be reaffirmed. Use the same skepticism you have on the Christians and the Hindus and everyone else on us. I can't speak for everyone. Yes, I can't speak for everyone else, but I'm just a person on the internet saying some things. You have no more reason to believe me than anyone else. Do your own research and do not believe us, or do not believe me.
Well done.
Me, I'm always right.
Well done. But use Occam's razor, and so you don't believe stupid stuff like QAnon. I'll add that. Occam's razor. Throw that into the spice. Critical thinking. Occam's razor. There you go.
I really enjoyed this conversation tonight. I think it has brought more focus on the skepticism over atheism. I know that we have talked about a religion a lot, but I'm very happy with the chat tonight. And Skeptic Skeletons links, Twitter.
Thank you for having me, by the way.
Thank you guys for letting me join.
Oh man, no, I appreciate everyone coming in for the after party. As I say, I really appreciate the guests coming in. This is a great conversation, definitely worthwhile having. And
nice to meet everyone, by the way, too. Nice to meet you all.
And Dave had a question on his channel the other day. What would you want as your epitaph? And I put not in the chat, but in the comments, I came, I saw, I kicked life's ass.
Well said.
I won't put mine online, so we'll leave that to the after party for the Patreon channel. Speaking of which, no, I'm not recording fuck all. I don't do that without people's consent. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming. Huge thank you to Skeptic Skeleton, who main guest tonight. Thank you for everyone who contributes financially to the channel. It really does go towards helping everything. And we'll probably be back in a couple of days. Another stream, another live stream. I don't know. Please fuck when I wake up in the morning, let Northern Ireland not be covered in ashes. If anyone hasn't seen it.
Is it still on fire? Is it still on fucking
covered in
fire?
arses?
Ashes.
Oh, that makes more sense.
See, I still haven't heard anything on the news. I popped my
Channel 4 on UTV did decide to do a fucking thing on it tonight, and they did it on that picture that I shared on Twitter, because that guy works for the Belly Telly, and it's a perfect picture. It's like, let's not have war with a guy throwing a petrol bomb over the top of it. It's
oh my gosh.
So they
makes me want to sing some U2 songs right now. Just saying.
Pardon?
I said, makes me want to sing a U2 song. All is quiet on New Year's Day.
Internet broke for him.
Kicked his ass.
No, seriously. If there's anyone here in Northern Ireland listening, or if anyone has any influence or anything, just I did release a video. I released a short video. We have a live stream on it. Please do watch either one of them. Just one. The short video is only 3 minutes long. Share it, promote it. YouTube is not even on a mobile phone app allowing to share it now, because
I'd love to check it out. I'd love to see it.
that just look back at my channel, man. It's
Yeah, look back like last week,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, to me, honestly, as
Okay,
an
will do.
American, it's amazing that Ireland was one of those last bastions of like, hey, we're the same exact people, but one of us is Catholic and one of us is Protestant, and we're gonna kill each other because
it's
of it.
not even that, man. It's if you boil it down, they'll tell you it's really important. And if you boiled it down to the other side, it actually doesn't matter going forward in any fucking way. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't.
No, I
even-
believe that. Like, it probably doesn't exist as much now, right? I
Oh
don't know.
no! The place isn't far, man. There's at least
Oh.
5 cities. We've got upwards of 30 to 50 fucking police officers that have been injured during this. We have had yesterday they decided to pull a bus driver and all of the passengers off the bus, and they didn't even give him a chance to put the handbrake on. So when they
That's
petrol bombed it, as there is 3 police jeeps coming up behind it, armored police Land Rovers coming up behind it, the bus is running down the middle of the street with kids on their bikes crossing the road
Oh my god,
on
dude.
fire.
Insane.
It's
In Ireland.
Northern Ireland, in
What the
Belfast.
fuck? This isn't Somalia.
2 nights ago, they pulled a man going round a roundabout. They decided to all run out in the middle of the road of a roundabout to block him so he couldn't drive. They then pulled him out of his car and threw a petrol bomb in through the window, or in through the passenger door, set fire to the car.
It's like the Philippines, like, half Catholic, half Muslim. They're the same exact people, They're the same exact genetics. They look exactly the same. You cross a barrier in part of the world, and all of a sudden you're a Muslim.